Hey everyone, it's Karley Hall and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today's video is sponsored by Epson, but all of the projects that you will see and the opinions that you will hear in today's video are my own. Today's video will be a review of Epson's Sublimation printer, the SureColor F170. It's a true desktop sublimation printer, so there's no converting necessary and we can use all of the ink that comes in the package. So before I do the review, let's set it up together so you can see just how easy it is to set it up, hook it up to your computer, and then I will show you a few projects. Okay, let's get started. In the box, you have your printer all packaged up, and you also have your sublimation ink. So keep everything in the package just as you see here, and we will go over how to unwrap and get everything up and running. You also have a power cable. A USB cord does not come with your printer, and if you want to set it up with a USB connection, you will need to provide your own USB cable. I recommend using the instructions that come with your specific printer. I am going to follow these exactly how they are here. So if you want to watch this video and you're setting up an Epson SureColor F170, you can follow along, but grab your instructions out so that you don't miss any steps while you follow along with me. I do want to call out a few things. So you don't want to open your ink bottles until you're actually ready to fill the printer ink. And then you also don't want to connect your computer until you are instructed to do so. So we are going to unpackage everything and get started. All of the tape is used to protect during transport, so you don't need your tape anymore. You can just peel it off and discard it. There's some along the back. I'm going to open up the lid, pull it all the way open until this mechanism engages to keep the lid open. While your printer is still powered off, we are going to install the ink. With your ink still in the clear packaging, you'll want to shake your bottle about 15 times to mix up all the ink. So I'm just going to shake it up. After you've shaken your ink bottle, you'll open this black cover here. It does remind you to shake your bottle 15 times, and then we are going to install the ink. As mentioned, this is genuine Epson sublimation ink, so you do not need to use different ink. You want to use the sublimation ink that came with your printer. Once you've given your bottles a good shake, you can open this black cover here, and inside you'll see the different tanks, and they're color coded so that you know which color goes in which tank. So you can see the first one is black. You can open up this tank, and the bottles are keyed to fit into the correct color. So I open up my bottle and unscrew the top lid here. This top part will fit into the correct color. So I'm just going to take it, and you can see that I was trying to put the cyan in black and it did not fit. So you'll want to open the correct cover, open that one up, and then now when I put it on, it fits in. So Epson is smart because I just grabbed this thinking it was black and it was cyan, and it did not fit in the black. And I couldn't force it in because it's keyed to fit in the correct tank. So now that that one is going, you don't need to squeeze it. You just flip it upside down and it will empty into the tank. Once the tank is full, the ink bottle will just stop filling the tank. So you don't need to worry about it overfilling. And we will have extra ink left in these bottles, so you'll want to store these and keep them to refill your tanks after we're done charging the ink. So now that that's full, we can take it off, and we will repeat this process with the appropriate colors. So we'll do the same process, shake up your ink, and then match the color code black to black and fit it onto the correct spot. The black tank is a little larger than the other colors, so this one doesn't have a lot of ink left in it, but there is still a little bit in the bottom, so I'm going to hang on to this bottle as well. Okay, we'll close that up and move on to the next step. So the ink is all filled up, and now we are going to plug in the included power cord. So this side will go into the back of your printer. Now we can raise this control panel here, peel this off, and power it on. I chose English as my language, and then I get a prompt that says, see the Start Here sheet to complete initialization. And if you hadn't already been following along in your instructions, you'll want to grab your instructions and it will tell you what to do next. So it says when the message to see the Start Here sheets appears, what we're going to do is press and hold the question mark for 5 seconds. Now it's telling me to confirm that the tanks are filled with ink. We have already done this, so I can say done. This screen right here, this LCD, is not a touch screen, so I'm going to click OK. Now it's going to initialize, and it even tells me this will take about 14 minutes. So I'll meet you back here when that is done initializing. The initialization is complete, so now we can move on to the adjustment. So we want to align everything now. That's what's recommended. So you'll want to load in your paper, and then we'll run the adjustments. For this step, I'm loading in regular copy paper. So this is not sublimation paper because we are just going to run some test prints, and I don't want to waste the sublimation printer paper on that. So this is regular copy paper. And inside the tray, I just pulled it out, you'll want to open up the guides so that it can accommodate your paper width. So I'll just squeeze this blue handle and open that up and load in my paper. For the alignment test, it doesn't matter which way I load this in, but when I load in my sublimation paper, I will show you how to load that in correctly. So now we'll load everything in and then click OK. We're going to perform a print head nozzle check. So I'll click print. I've loaded in my paper already, and now we'll click print again. And our first print is on its way. Here's a look at the first print, and that printed so beautifully. Usually you'll have gaps and things in the lines, and mine has none of that. So that is actually perfect. If it had gaps, I would click the X and it would try to align things again. So you can see on the prompts here, if my print looks something like that, I would click the X. But since mine doesn't have any gaps and that they're all connected, I can click OK and continue on. We're now going to align the print position. So we will print out that test page. For this test, you want to choose the box with the fewest streaks. I'm going to choose number 1. So to do that, I'm going to click the minus until it says 1 on my screen and then click proceed. We're going to print out another alignment sheet. Choose the rectangles that are not separated or overlapped. So it gives you an example of what it's looking for. Number 6 or 7 maybe. Let's take a closer look. I'm going to go with number 6. So I'm going to click the plus button and then proceed. Okay, so now we are done with the print alignment. The instructions will tell us that once we're done with those alignment tests, we can actually go back and fill up the ink tanks a little bit more so that the ink is full. Because if you look at the front of our printer, the ink tanks have gone down just a little bit. So I'm going to quickly fill those up, and then we will connect our printer to my computer. The ink is all filled up, so I can go ahead and close my covers. On my instructions, it tells me to go to epson.com/support/the model number. So you'll want to find the website for your specific printer, and then you'll follow the instructions on the computer screen. So on Epson's website, you'll see a photo of your printer and the model number, and you'll want to download the drivers. So you can see that it will detect your operating system depending on what type of computer you're using. And then if you click on that plus sign here, there is a drivers and utility combo package installer. That's what I usually install because I do like having the utilities if I need those. You can also just install the driver or just the utilities. I'm going to recommend installing both the driver and utilities combo package. So you'll click the download option here. And in the bottom left-hand corner, if you're on a Mac, you'll see a download. Go ahead and click on that. This little window will open up double click on the Epson icon and you'll want to click open. It will give you a warning that it's downloaded from the internet, but since it's coming directly from Epson.com, you can trust the software, so click open. You can read through all of the license agreement, fine print, and once you're done reading that, you'll accept the terms and continue on. For the software selection, we are installing the Epson drivers and utilities. It's also letting me see that I can download an Epson user guide link. I'm not going to install that, but if you'd like to install that, you can check the box here and then click install. You may be prompted to enter your password to install the software, so go ahead and enter your password and click OK. The really cool thing about the Epson SureColor F170 is that what's happening right now is I'm installing a driver, and one of the main reasons that most people are intimidated by sublimation is because of a thing called color profiles. And when you're working with ink and different papers and textiles, sometimes you need to adjust your computer's color profiles so that it prints in the right color that you want to see on your end product. With the SureColor F170, as I install these drivers, it's installing all of the color profiles that I need. So I don't need to worry about any extra settings, any extra installation of color profiles. Everything is included in what I'm installing right now. For the next step, it wants me to turn on my printer. Mine is already turned on, so I'm going to click continue. Epson's pretty thorough about making sure that you're doing things in the correct order. So it's saying for the first time, you'll need to fill the ink tanks and start the ink charging, which we've already done in this video. So I've already charged my ink, and that's why I needed to refill them or top them off. So we've already charged it, and we followed those on-screen prompts. We're good to go. We'll check to confirm that. Make sure that you only check this box if you in fact have charged your inks, and then click continue. For your connection, you can connect your printer whichever way you'd like. My go-to is always the direct USB connection because I have a USB cord, but let's see if we can do the wireless connection since I know not everyone has that USB cable. So we'll walk through the wireless connection, assuming you have a wireless network already set up. My printer is not already on my wireless network, so I need to set up the printer for the first time and add it to my existing wireless network. So we'll click continue. For the Wi-Fi auto connect, it will automatically connect the product to our wireless network, but we may lose internet temporarily during the process. So I'm going to say yes and click continue. For this step, you'll want to select your wireless network and then you'll enter your password. You have the option to register your printer so that you can get your software updates, all that good stuff. So you can either register that or do that later. And now our software installation and printer setup are complete. And now we can do a test print. So one of the main benefits of this Epson sublimation printer is that we do not need to install any of the color profiles that I mentioned. So we can choose a document and print it, and we are pretty much good to go. So if you're using the ink that the sublimation printer came with and using the paper, the Epson paper, the profiles are designed to print accurate color representation based on the printer paper and the ink. So I'm good to print my designs. So to do that, I've opened an Illustrator file, but you can use whatever design program you want. So you can use Microsoft Word, you can even print from Canva or an internet browser, even Cricut Design Space if you want. So you can print from whatever design program you want to design in, and the colors will all be accurate. I already have my designs ready to go, and you'll notice here that none of them are mirrored because I'm going to mirror that with my print software. So it's set up. Now I'm going to choose File and Print. And I have designed my artboards to be 8.5 by 14 inches since that is the size of the paper that I have from Epson. So I chose Page Setup, and then I have my format for Craft Room Sublimation Printer, which is the printer I'm going to use. And then the paper size is the US Legal, 8.5 by 14. The other paper sizes that you can use are A4, so 8.27 by 11.69, US Legal, and US Letter. So you do have a few options, and 8.5 by 14 is a good amount of area to print for sublimation. Next, we'll choose the setup option, and if you don't see all of these settings, you may want to check to ensure that your driver was installed properly, because the driver is what will allow you to change all of these settings. So if you just have a few options and you don't see layout, color matching, paper handling, all of these options, ensure that your driver was installed properly. The one setting that I pay close attention to is my print setting. So click on the print settings, and this is such a cool feature of this printer. So the media type, it will say you are either choosing DS transfer multi-use / textile or multi-use / rigid. And this is referring to the type of product that you are transferring your sublimation ink to. So if you're printing for a t-shirt, you would choose textile, or if you were transferring to something, a hard surface, like a board book that I'll show in this video, you would choose rigid. So depending on what your project is, you'll choose either textile or rigid. And then your print quality, you have normal and fine. Fine will be more detailed, so I typically choose fine. You also have the option to mirror your image within the print settings. So I did not mirror my image within my design, so I'm going to check it here. And then I'm going to choose print. That won't start my print since I'm printing through Adobe Illustrator. So now I can choose which artboards I want to print, how many copies I need. So for this example, I'll print the first artboard, number 1, and I just need 1 copy. Before I hit print, I want to make sure that my paper is loaded in properly. So let's load that in together. Here's my sublimation paper from Epson. One side is bright white and the other side is a more creamy yellowy tone. So we want to print on the bright white side. So I'm going to load that into my printer. To load the paper, you'll flip open the bottom tray and pull it out. You'll make sure that your guides are still opened. For this printer, you load the paper with the side you want to print on facing down. So I'm going to load the bright white side facing down and then place that in the printer. Since I'm using legal size paper, I want the edge of the paper to stick out of the tray. So there's a little tab. I'm just going to press that so that it's out and then push the tray back in. Now that that's all loaded in, I can print from my computer. So I'm going to click print and it will print out the first page of my project. So here is one of my prints, and you can see that it did mirror the image, so the text is reflected. And you'll also notice that the colors do look very muted. So if you look at my image that printed compared to my computer screen, you'll see that they are different colors, and that's totally to be expected since sublimation ink will reach its full color potential when it's heated up and transferred to your project blank. So if we look at our print compared to the image on your computer screen, it will look a little different. It will look more muted, but when you transfer it, your colors will be more vivid. So you can see here that I have my corgi design, and this is what it looks like when it was transferred. For this project, you can see that my printed image is much duller, and then the transfer is nice and bright and crisp. And then the back side is the purple mama, again, much brighter on this side. But what I wanted really to pay attention to and see if this printer could do is print a photograph well. And you can see the results are really beautiful. The image quality is super crisp. I wasn't expecting it to be that good because it is a smaller printer, but the print resolution is up to 1200 by 600 dpi. So photos print really nicely on this printer. This board book turned out super cute, and I'll do a full tutorial on how to do this. I just wanted to share how great the photo quality was using this printer. Here's a look at a t-shirt that I made, and you can see that the ink is dull, and then when it transfers, super bright and vibrant. And I know that t-shirts are super popular with sublimation, and it's something that I actually haven't considered when shopping for sublimation ink before. I never really paid attention to Oeko-Tex standards, and I always see it on a tag when I'm purchasing clothes, but I really didn't pay attention to it when I was making my own products. And if you are selling your clothes as a product in a business, I do think it's important to be in compliance with these OEKO-TEX standards. So using Epson ink and pressing it following the manufacturer settings of your blank will allow you to say that your t-shirts are in compliance with those OEKO-TEX standards, which means that they're safe for children, babies, and adults, which is really cool. So the Epson ink is certified and does pass all of those safety standards. I have a few more projects that I wanted to show you and just kind of show off the variety of things that you can make with this printer. So I have a tote bag, again, the print, and then the transfer, and on the back, of course, I had to do a boba, so you can see, again, the print compared to the transfer. And one last project, because these are super fun and I've never made socks before, but I made these socks and they actually are going to go with this mug. So my best friend lost her corgi just recently, so the mug says, "I miss you too," and then this is an actual picture of her puppy, so then I can roll these up and put them in the mug as a little wishing you well gift. But I'm just so impressed with the quality of the ink. There's no splotchiness. Everything transferred really, really evenly. And the colors straight out of the box, I'm really impressed with. The fact that I didn't have to mess with any type of color profile. Everything was just ready to go. Now that I've set up my printer, had a chance to make some projects and review all the features and the functions of this specific printer, I wanted to give you a formal review on what I thought. Would I recommend this Epson SureColor F170, a true Epson sublimation printer, or would I recommend buying an Epson EcoTank and converting it with third-party sublimation ink? Or would I recommend a different printer altogether, like a sublimation printer from Sawgrass, for example? I know that when you're buying a printer, you have a lot to consider. There are factors like printing size, print quality, cost, and more, even more. So for the purposes of this video, I'm going to assume that you are a sublimation beginner and you're just dipping your toes into the world of sublimation, and the print size of 8.5 by 14 is big enough for you. So if that's not you and you are looking for a larger printer, or you're looking for a more robust printer with more functions and features, this might not be the most accurate review for you. So keep that in mind as I go through my list of positives and negatives. The first positive I want to talk about is your access to Epson's technical support and a 1-year limited warranty. When you buy this printer, you have access to a team of experts over at Epson. If you buy an Epson EcoTank and convert it using third-party ink, you're immediately voiding your warranty. If you're new to my channel, you may have not seen that I've converted 2 Epson EcoTanks in the past. And albeit nothing's wrong with those printers, both of those printers still work. It was very nerve-wracking putting that third-party ink into my printer, knowing that I was voiding my warranty. So with the Epson SureColor F170, you're using the sublimation ink that came in the box. You're using this printer completely as it's intended. So you're not voiding your warranty and you have Epson support. Positive number 2, the color profiles are included in the driver software that comes with this Epson printer. When I first dove into sublimation, I was so overwhelmed with this idea of color profiles. I knew that with every different ink brand, there was a different color profile, but I wasn't sure where to find these profiles. Do I need to get them from the ink manufacturers? Where do I find them? How do I download them? And how do I ensure that they're working properly? It's all super overwhelming as a beginner in sublimation. And you already have enough to worry about with pressing times, temperatures, blanks, all of those things. So the last thing you want to have to worry about are these color profiles. So with this printer, it's so nice that Epson has manufactured the ink and created these color profiles to be installed right when you install the driver software. So instead of having to worry about making sure your color is set up properly, you can start printing immediately and get crafting a little bit faster. Positive number 3. This one is in relation to the ink, and there's 2 positives that I want to mention. The first is that the ink is certified to be safe by the standards set by Okotex. So this is an international safety standard that has determined that Epson ink is safe to use on garments. So that means that you have peace of mind knowing that you can press this ink into t-shirts or other wearable garments, and you know it's safe for adults, children, and even babies. So a huge peace of mind if you're creating these products as gifts or selling them in your business. Second, I wanted to mention that you can purchase the ink separately. So when I use my sublimation ink, I tend to run out of my black first. And one of the main gripes that I have with other sublimation inks is that I can only purchase, most of the time, the ink in a set of 4 colors. And with Epson's ink, you don't have to do that. You can buy one color when you need a black or a cyan, and you don't have to buy the set together. So that was huge for me because I can save money and only replace the ink colors that I need. Positive number 4, the resolution and print quality on this printer is amazing. This printer prints up to 1200 by 600 dots per inch, and in the printer world, that's considered excellent image quality. I compared side-by-side prints from my Epson EcoTank 15000 that can print up to 4800 by 1200 optimized DPI, and you'll spend about $300 more for that printer. But after comparing side-by-side my 2 prints, I visibly couldn't see a difference. So I did some Googling to see if it was my eyes or my brain, and it turns out that most people can't see a difference after you get to a certain number of dots per inch. And that number is usually around 1200 dots per inch because it's just so clear and so crisp. So you may want to save some money and buy a printer that prints up to 1200 by 600 dots per inch, since we may not be able to see a difference between the 2 resolutions. It might be hard to believe, but there are even more positives than I'm going over in this video, but they're very similar to the positives of a converted Epson EcoTank. So I'm going to wrap up the positives here, but if you found this video helpful so far, make sure to like it and consider subscribing to my channel for more sublimation content and reviews and craft how-tos. All right, now moving on to the negatives. The first negative I want to talk about is print head clogging. If you're new to sublimation, you may not be aware that sublimation ink tends to clog more frequently than traditional inkjet ink. And in order to avoid that, you do have to print pretty regularly, so about once or twice a week. And that may be a lot for somebody that is just doing this as a hobby. If you don't print regularly and you do get a clog, it's not the end of the world. You can run something called a print head cleaning or a power cleaning, but the more you do this, you may shorten the life of your printer. So when Epson announced that they were making a desktop sublimation printer, I was really hopeful that they would add an automated function that would run either print head cleanings or print frequently in the background so that we didn't have to think about it. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case. So if you're looking for a low maintenance machine, this might not be the machine for you, and you may want to consider something like a Sawgrass sublimation printer because their cleaning is automated and it's built into the machine, so you don't have to think about it. And when there's already so much other stuff to think about, you don't really want to have to worry about making sure you're printing regularly or doing those maintenance updates like print head cleanings. The second negative was the cost. This printer comes in at $399, and overall, compared to other sublimation printers on the market, that's not a bad value. If you look at a Sawgrass for similar quality and size, you'll spend about $699. $300 is not a small amount of money. But if you're comparing the sublimation printer, Epson sublimation printer, to other Epson EcoTanks, you can find a printer of similar quality for about $249, add $30 for some third-party sublimation ink, all in around $279. That's $120 cheaper than this printer. Of course, you do have to consider that you're voiding your warranty, and if anything happens to that printer, you may be out of a printer completely. But if you're willing to take the risk, you could save upwards of $120. I just looked over my notes because I thought there were going to be more negatives, and I think that's everything. All my positives, all my negatives, but the question still remains, if you were in the market today for a sublimation printer, would I recommend buying the Epson SureColor F170, converting an Epson EcoTank, or a different brand altogether like Sawgrass? And even though Epson is sponsoring this review, they assured me that I will be paid if I recommend this product or if I say, hey, I don't recommend it. So with that, I hope you can trust me when I say that I would absolutely recommend the Epson SureColor F170 because of the ease of use. Knowing that you can get this machine, set it up with the included ink, and then download the drivers that come with those color profiles, that is invaluable to me, because now you are taking a process that could take a really long time and condensing it down to less than 30 minutes. In less than 30 minutes, I set up my printer, downloaded the drivers, and had a project completed. And when there's already so many things to worry about with sublimation and so many things to remember, like pressing times, temperatures, settings, pressing lines, lint rolling, all the different steps to make a project work, the last thing you want to have to worry about is printing out your image incorrectly or having the wrong colors print out. So for me, that was reason enough to invest in a true Epson sublimation printer so that I don't have to worry about all of the image settings. And the cherry on top, the Epson printer included different settings for the rigid blanks and the textile blanks. So you can just tell that Epson truly knows what they're doing to design settings to work for different blanks as well. I know that all equipment purchase decisions are extremely personal, so if you're still struggling to figure out which printer is best for you, leave me a comment and I will help guide you to a printer that will work for all of the different needs that you have. Or if this video helped you make a decision and you're ready to buy a printer, let me know. What did you decide? What printer are you going to buy next for your sublimation, crafting, business, or hobby? If you need links to any of the products talked about in today's video, everything will be linked in the video description, including the printer, the paper, all of the blanks. You can find everything linked in the video description. Thank you so much to Epson for sponsoring this video. I absolutely love doing reviews like this, investigating the tech specs and trying out all the different new products on the market. It's such a fun part of my job. So thank you for watching and being here. And if you found this video helpful, make sure to like it and consider subscribing to my channel so that you can check out all of my other crafting content. Speaking of which, if you need help with getting started with sublimation and you're ready to start crafting, I have an entire playlist on crafting with sublimation projects. Okay, I think that's everything. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.